So when we talk about technology in the classroom, it varies from what district you go into, the different levels of technology that are being used. Whether you're going into a district that has like one-on-one devices, or you're going to a district where it rotates in an iPad cart, that sort of thing. So you're responsible for all technology that's in your room that day. Okay, so count all the devices at the beginning, count them all at the end, make sure that the numbers match. If not, the school's probably going to call us and say, hey, can that sub help us find one more? Okay, make sure all devices are plugged back in. One of the biggest things is that a sub or students will take all their time to plug every little iPad back in, and then the one most common thing, the iPad card doesn't get plugged back into the wall. Okay? So just make sure you got that one too. And then report any damages to the office, as well as document those in your daily sub report. Okay? Because we understand that everybody's human. Things happen. Okay, so we're going to talk about blended learning. How many of you know what blended learning is, or heard of it? Okay? How many of you are subbing in Lawrence? A couple of you? Okay, so blended learning is a mix of basically traditional learning that you guys see, usually teacher-directed, what I'm doing now, teacher-led, okay, and the use of technology in the classroom. Engagement with blended learning curriculum, basically it utilizes interactive technologies through all these different ways. Key concepts, digital media, personal learning, student-focused, okay? They have more interest in what's on that iPad than me standing up here talking. Educational goals, they can choose their own path, okay, and which way they go, as well as engagement and motivation. So with that, one of our districts, Lawrence, has over 400 classrooms that are blended. So when you go to sub and you look on ASOP, which we'll talk about here in a second, you go to sub and you look on ASOP, it'll show blended learning second grade, okay? And so with that, they use a Blackboard, which is a classroom management learning system. And what it does is, if you've been to college, you should know somewhat about a learning management system. Okay, there's different ones, Blackboard, Canvas, those sort of things. But it's able to multiply the teacher. The teacher can be in more places at once. They can check for understanding. Students are able to master concepts better, as well as transform learning. They can access videos, all their assessments on their, any sort of assignment that they have on Blackboard, okay, at any time, because it's self-paced. This allows collaboration with student to student, student to teacher, student to parent, teacher to parent. There's just more collaboration because there's more documentation of that, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this time and show you a blended learning video that is with Blackboard. Okay, they've made this, and it's specifically pertaining to Lawrence, okay? Nope, that's not what I want.
The two questions we were looking to investigate and answer were, could we increase student engagement, and could we create a resource for the teachers that would free up their time to spend more time with their students, either one-on-one or individually. So after our field test in the spring of 2013, we knew we were ready to move forward, but we needed to select a learning management system. We decided to select Blackboard because it was more the drive off the lot ready. We had tools that our professional educators would want to use in the classroom, ways to monitor student achievement, ways to engage students.
If you walked into my classroom, first of all, you would probably walk in before the bell rang, because students are eager to get started.
You're definitely not going to be able to recognize the front of the classroom. There isn't one.
They have electronic devices out, whether they're iPads or laptops.
Students working on the computers through Blackboard. Sometimes it might be an individual student, sometimes they might be in partners.
Lots of conversation going on, collaboration, lots of discussion.
In a blended environment, it's a lot easier to interact with the teacher and to work at your own pace and to learn how you want to learn.
I'm not busy at the front of the room being like, look at me, pay attention to me, and doing the lesson for 40 minutes, and then I have 3 minutes to get to them.
I get to multiply myself by 10 because I've put videos on there of myself explaining the concept.
Some of the choices she gives us are we can sing a song, we can do research and write it in a Word document, we can put a discussion up on Blackboard, and we can just tell it to her.
I like the idea that there's videos and different ways for her to get activity, so she can read it or she can watch a video, she can read it over as much often as she needs to, she can replay the video if she needs to.
She comes home just super excited and talking a mile a minute.
If somebody would much rather sing a song than write a paper, why not?
The student engagement is so high that they constantly want to get on Blackboard because they know that it's going to be an engaging and fun learning activity.
It's really cool because I love having all this technology there.
I had kids coming up to me the day we got access to Blackboard going, is there an app? Can I get the app on my phone? I found that most of my students were telling me that they had solved their own problems or that another student had explained something to them.
In math, I'm ahead of some people, so I help them with problems that they need help on.
My favorite is that there's no failure. They feel very successful.
She'd grade it, and if your grade was below something, you would be able to move on to the next journal entry, so you'd always be checking your grades on Blackboard.
In a blended setting, I can hold students accountable for that relearning. And what I've found is that the students are interested in relearning and then approach me for opportunities to demonstrate what they've learned.
It's just created this sense of success, and the kids are very excited to come. Some of them come in at 7:30 in the morning and school doesn't start till 8:05.
When I was homesick, I decided to log into Blackboard on discussions so that I could stay with my class.
When you can step out and just watch the kids work, either in unison or they're just so engaged that they lose all track of time, that to me is authentic engagement, and that's what we're producing in these classrooms.
I am more energized about teaching and more proud of what I do because of blended learning than I ever have been before. I know my students better. I know that they are 100% engaged from the minute they walk in the door until the minute they leave.
I like Blackboard and blended learning because they're fun.
All right, so tell me your thoughts on blended learning.
I'm all about it.
You're all about it?
All about it.
Okay. Is there any negatives to it?
When you first start, it's a challenge because most teachers, especially if they've been veteran teachers, they're used to being the sage on stage. And I'm giving you what you need as a student and guiding that path. So to let that control go and allow students to move at their own pace. I mean, it takes you back to the Montessori method. It's kind of hard, especially if you're a controlling type of person.
And most teachers are.
But I love the flip side of that. You get that real-time data. You do get to know the students' interests more, their strengths, their weaknesses. You can pull those small groups, that individual, all of that. So it really is refreshing. And when students are engaged, they're learning, and that's what's most important.
One of the biggest questions that I get when doing this section is, what happens to your lower level learners? Don't they fall behind?
Mm-mm.
And in all honesty, mine never did, because I could put the majority working on their self-paced, and then I could pull those kids out for one-on-one instruction that they need. That make sense? Yes.
Is this in the elementary level? Is it all day? Is it?
It varies from classroom to classroom, and it varies from age level. So in Lawrence, they have it basically K through 12, and so it varies. If they're teachers who are very used to using it, they can use it all day long for all subject content. But if they're just implementing it, they'll just start in maybe science and social studies and start out with a couple. And it varies from class to class when you get to high school. So not every classroom in Lawrence is a blended learning classroom. However, there are quite a few. Okay? Is there any questions on that one?
How does the sub fall into that? I mean, it looks like the kids kind of know where they're going. So how would a sub, fit into that getting started and especially if there weren't a lesson plan?
It varies teacher to teacher, or based on what they leave for a lesson plan. Some may leave you technology, and they may leave you access to get into everything that they need for the day. But a lot of times it's just going to be normal things like, this is the lesson plan, this is what the kids are doing for the day, this is the code to get into it. Honestly, if you follow, but the biggest thing that you have to know is just ask for help. If you're stuck, ask for help, because the teacher beside you is going to usually know how to. And if you're going to have technology malfunctions, okay, that's just life. Like constant life is change. So you're going to have malfunctions. And if you have malfunctions, just go to your backup plan until someone can help you. Does that kind of answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay. It varies from teacher to teacher what they leave for you.
Are there other districts besides Lawrence that do blended?
So our other districts don't have a whole, they don't use a whole model like Lawrence. But you may go classroom to classroom, and they may have that model within their classroom. Just like what we're going to talk about with the flipped classroom. So it's a little different than blended. But usually it's per teacher basis at that point. Okay? Lawrence uses a whole model. Everybody else is per teacher basis that we have so far. So on the flip side of blended, you do have a flipped classroom. So does anyone know what a flipped classroom is or have kids that are in a flipped classroom? Okay.
No.
Flipped classrooms are basically, so they're video lectures that are at home. Okay? Kids are sent home with their video lectures. They watch them at home, and then when they go into the classroom, okay, the in-class time is devoted to all that hands-on homework, projects, that sort of thing. So the teacher isn't sending home homework where a parent can't help them as much as to where they're sending home their lecture where they all know that they can watch it, and then when they get into the classroom, that teacher can help them master that concept. So once again, this ranges through like Bloom's taxonomy, which has inquiry, application, and interaction, as well as it's self-paced once again. Okay, so you're seeing a lot of, what's your name?
Katina.
Okay, so what Katina said, you're seeing a lot of movement from teacher-led to self-paced, where teachers are relinquishing that control. So the biggest thing is it allows for reflection. Okay, so while they're in class with you, they can sit back and they can watch that lecture again to reflect upon what's being said over and over. To where we lecture one day and we move on, they can't reflect on that as well. Does that make sense? Especially if there's someone that takes time to process. What ends up happening is it eliminates the misconceptions. So if a kid thinks that they know how to do this problem in math this way, and they go home and continue to do the problem incorrectly at home, okay, they've created a misconception. Instead, they watch that lecture and they come in the next day and they're being shown how to do it correctly, hands-on. Collaborative, and it is cooperative with teaching and learning with both of those, but it also moves from discovering material, so from a day-to-day basis, to where students are able to master that concept. They can go back and repeat it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Well, I think it's a great idea. Aren't there students that can't watch a video at home? They don't have the equipment?
Uh-huh.
And so do they fall behind?
It just varies on how the teacher structure is ran, but a lot of the classrooms I've seen have not, because they can, once they get to school or they have downtime, that sort of thing, they'll watch them. They'll watch those lectures. I used it in science, especially when we got to the chemistry portion of junior high, that if a kid couldn't watch it, a lot of times they would take that first 15 minutes and watch it in class, and then I would work with them. Because everybody else that had watched it would already be started on the assignment going well, and then I could pull that kid aside.
And as a sub, you wouldn't necessarily know. I mean, the kid might not let you know that he hadn't seen it.
Sure.
You're just kind of guessing?
Or? A lot of times it will be left in the instructions that'll say, hey, that this lecture was left on the Blackboard system, have all students click on this and watch it.
Can you tell who watched it and who didn't?
Usually no. No, it varies. Sometimes there are counters if the school has bought in that particular program. A lot of times they're not going to spend the extra money. So it just varies. However, if they haven't watched it, you already have a pretty good idea, because they're going into what's hands-on now. So they don't even have that instruction if they didn't watch it. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you a short video of how a chemistry teacher uses it. And I mean, it's pretty. If you've never seen a